हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मेरी आवाज़ आ रही है आप लोगों को?
Assalamualaikum. Ji Asada, you are audible now. Ji Asad, you are audible now, so I think you can hear me too.
Yes, everyone is audible here.
Good day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And inconvenience regretted for this a bit technical glitch, and we'll be starting. Sub is there, and we will just kick it off now.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, all. Apologies for the slight delay in relation to starting this webinar. We had some technical glitches and issues with the connection to the platform. Today's webinar is about ESG and reliable platforms for GHG and PCF reporting. We have a great lineup of speakers and panelists here. So without any further delay, I will start with brief introductions. We have Ms. Nandita Ramchala, who is a senior standards and quality infrastructure professional with 2 decades of experience driving national, regional, and international standardization. We have Ms. Kamal Shahzadi, who is a certified lead auditor for ISO 1464 GHG protocols, ISO 14001, and a local assessor for ISO 1468. Then we have Mia Sajil Sohail, who is country head for Green Story. Green Story is a sustainability technology platform for environmental impacts and support transparent sustainability. Then we have Abdullah Munir Saab, who is digital product passport advisor and supporting organizations in understanding and implementing emerging EU sustainability regulations. And last but not least, our very own Asad Saab, who does not require any introduction. He is a key player in terms of the energy landscape in Pakistan and beyond. He's also the partner and director of ESG Nexus, the platform that we conduct our webinar series through. He's here with us as well. So, without any delay, I will pass the stage on to Ms. Nadita, who will give us a keynote for this particular session. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
I think we need to add her up. There is a text there to add up her again. Yeah, she's there.
Good day, everyone. Good day, distinguished panelists, participants, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to share a standards-based perspective on the evolving role of ISO frameworks in ESG, greenhouse gas reporting, and product carbon footprint reporting. It's an honor and privilege to deliver the keynote address today. I will be touching on several different areas. So starting off with one of the main issues, the alignment between the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and ISO 14064. For many years, both frameworks have been used internationally, but sometimes by different communities and for different purposes. The GHG protocol has been widely used for corporate greenhouse gas accounting, particularly for Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 reporting. While the ISO 14064 Part 1, which focuses on the organizational level, provides principles, requirements, at the organizational level for quantifying and reporting greenhouse gas emissions and removals, with a strong emphasis on inventory design, documentation, reporting, and verification. The major progress is that ISO and GHG Protocol have established a strategic partnership focused on formal cooperation and harmonization. And this is particularly significant because organizations, investors, regulators, verifiers, and supply chain partners need a common language. Harmonization can reduce duplication, improve comparability, and make reporting more practical. From a standards perspective, this alignment is very welcome. It means organizations should not see ISO 14064 and the GHG protocol as competing tools. Rather, they should see them as complementary. The main developments thus far is that the establishment of a joint working group entitled ISO GHGP, Joint Working Group on Carbon Footprint of Products, Requirements, and Guidelines for Quantification. This joint working group has been established, and this is part of the partnership arrangement. And also, we have the participation of GHG protocol representatives on the ISO TC 207 Subcommittee 7 Working Group 5. Just to highlight the work of the Subcommittee 7, this subcommittee is responsible for standardization related to greenhouse gas and climate change management and related activities. And the Working Group 5 covers quantification, monitoring, and reporting of greenhouse gas emission reductions or removal enhancements for projects. This integration and the partnership means that we can transform carbon accounting from a choice between two frameworks into a unified global system. The collaboration aims to completely harmonize global emissions reporting and eliminate redundancy for corporate disclosures. Partnership between ISO and the GHG protocol is critical to ensure that we have a unified system. And touching on something that is important for ESG professionals. So looking at how our ISO TC 207 initiatives relate to IFRS S1 and IFRS S2. Around 2023, ISO as an organization and the IFRS Foundation would have recognized the importance of cooperation and collaboration. The ISO environmental management and greenhouse gas standards can support companies in implementing sustainability and climate commitments, and also help to provide internal systems, controls, and the evidence needed to support disclosures aligned with the IFRS S1, the general requirements for disclosure of sustainability-related financial information, and the IFRS S2, looking at the climate-related disclosures. Looking at the role of the ISO TC 207, the committee remains highly relevant because the scope covers environmental management systems, auditing, verification and validation, environmental labeling, life cycle assessment, climate change mitigation and adaptation, greenhouse gas management, and climate finance. These standards provide the practical and foundational building blocks that organizations would need when preparing credible sustainability and climate-related disclosures. I wanted to highlight some of the key standards as well developed by ISO TC 207. We have the ISO 14001, looking at environmental management systems. The suite of standards produced by the TC, they can help companies with their sustainability and climate commitments and their implementation, support the disclosures required by the IFRS S2. And one of the key standards that provides support is the ISO 14064 and that series of standards. Some other relevant standards include the 14001. We also have the ISO 14090, which looks at adaptation to climate change, and the 14091 looking at vulnerability, impacts, and risk assessment. These standards assist organizations to identify, assess, and prioritize sustainability and climate-related risk. On this particular topic, I wanted to highlight two key initiatives under ISO TC 207. We have the Developing Country Engagement Strategy, and this is one of the key focus areas for me as the twin chair of the ISO TC 207. It is focused on awareness building, sharing of experiences, and showcasing the application of standards in developing countries, and also how the developing countries have demonstrated leadership in environmental standardization. We also have another initiative, which is the Youth Leadership Group, and this is focused on building leadership in the next generation. Actually, the third cohort of the Youth Leadership Group will be launched on the 20th of June, so this Saturday, and happy to note that there are participants from Pakistan as well. And we really appreciate the support from developing countries, and we recognize that there are very successful initiatives that are taking place. Our focus as the TC would be to enhance the commitment and the contributions of the developing countries, as well as building the capabilities for our youth leaders. I wanted to touch now on something that is very important, especially for SMEs in developing countries, and looking at the CBAM, net zero commitments, supply chain decarbonization, and these issues becoming very important, and the potential impact on the SMEs and how SMEs can utilize the ISO standards without excessive compliance costs. Now, it starts off in saying that there are compliance costs. These issues are real. And for the SMEs, cascading regulations like CBAM and corporate net zero mandates means that large buyers are increasingly demanding carbon and environmental data as one of the prerequisites of doing business. So SMEs can practically adopt ISO standards using a phased risk-based approach, a highly scalable approach. And this has to integrate data collection into daily operations. Now, these are just some recommended steps. Every organization, SME, MSME, would have to determine how they utilize the ISO standards within their operations. But I think one of the key points is that the ISO standards, especially 14,000 and the other standards produced by TC 207, we have to look at it as a scalable adoption framework. And one of the key steps would be to establish data baseline. So looking at where we can collect data at low or zero cost. So we do not need expensive software to start. Compliance can begin by gathering existing operational data to cover Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. So this means that we can track utility bills, fuel invoice, waste disposal receipts, log in production volumes, transport records, and establishing a baseline is critical. And then this can be scaled up to complex Scope 3 tracking when requested by key clients. Then secondly, looking at the scalable management framework, the ISO 14001 can be used as an internal operational document or blueprint rather than going directly to, say, costly third-party certification. So scaling to fit, applying the framework strictly to your most material impacts, example, high energy use or raw material waste, looking at the scalability advantage. As the business grows or there are increasing demands from customers, we can escalate and grow the framework for a fully auditable system when necessary. And looking at the CBAM, I think there can be a prioritization of high impact products or even services. So if clients demand product level data under ISO 14067 to satisfy CBAM or supply chain requirements, looking at the highest volume, highest emission, highest risk or export facing products first, and then scaling the product footprint methodology to lower product lines over time as resources allow. So focusing on the high priority products would be essential for small or micro enterprise. And then finally, looking at operationalizing compliance to drive return on investment. I think one of the key points is to shift the mindset from a lot of paperwork documentation to operational efficiency. And this means integrating the ISO principles into daily habits or processes being utilized by the MSMEs to ultimately reduce business costs. For example, looking at energy efficiency, preventative maintenance, lowering the utility bill, doing waste reduction and smarter purchasing and procurement. So it could help with improving margins while satisfying the ISO 14001 objectives. In summary, by adopting the ISO standards incrementally and using a scalable approach, SMEs can utilize the framework to prepare and comply with regulations like CBAM, starting off with some of the basic elements and prioritizing certain products, and then eventually growing the level of compliance over time. So that would be my basic advice for SMEs, MSMEs, and it doesn't only apply to say 14001, but any ISO standards, because we do understand that certification costs can be significant. So unless there's a direct need to be certified, we recommend that the company start small and evolve over time. Now, looking at a very important area and turning to the issue of the future integration of the ISO 14067 reporting with digital product passwords, CBAM, and disclosure systems. I think one of the key points here, we are living in a technology-driven world. We have AI, we have a lot of technology systems. So the product carbon footprint is becoming increasingly important. Looking at now the question, what is the carbon impact of products? And this ISO standard, the 14067, is important because it provides principles, requirements, and guidance for quantifying and reporting the carbon footprint of products based on life cycle assessment thinking. And this is now very important for supply chain requirements and transparency. Looking ahead, and I said that we are living in a technology world, the reporting systems will become more connected to digital systems. The digital product passports, for example, are intended to make product information more accessible, traceable, and transparent across value chains.
Thank
CBAM
you,
also.
madam. Thank you. Apologies to interrupt. We are slightly pushed by time, and we
Okay.
have other partners and participants as well who we need to do. Madam, thank you very much for joining. We had Ms. Nadita Ramchala delivering the keynote address for this webinar session. And as you could all probably see from the passion that was oozing out from the keynote, that it was all to do with standardization and so on, and that is what was reflective in there. So madam, thank you very much for delivering this and joining us. Now I would move to the other panelists. And I would give you the floor for 2 minutes each, in no particular order. If we can get your views on how CBAM is likely to impact Pakistan's export sector. So I would start from Ms. Kamal Shahzadi, please. If you could give your views, 2 minutes each, please, participants. Thank you.
Usman sir, firstly, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity of to be a part of such a unique set of panelists. And about the CBAM, I just want to give a brief introduction. Basically, it's a EU regulation, and this was released in April 2023. So currently, within 2026, this is something mandatory for all of those exporters who actually falls within the portfolio of CBAM, which means currently CBAM is applicable for around 6 sectors, like we have cement, steel, iron, aluminium, fertilizer, hydrogen, and electricity. So if any of the company is exporting their products to EU within these sectors, this is something mandatory that they need to report their emissions, and they got those emissions verified from the third party. So I just want to highlight that CBAM has specifically like entirely different methodology of GHG calculations, unlike currently which we are observing when we are calculating emissions at the corporate level inventory. So within that EU regulations, they have given a detailed guidance how to calculate your emissions, how to set the boundaries, how to set the production route. I would like to quote an example. For example, if a cement company is exporting clinker and cement both to the EU, then as per the CBAM regulation and their particular CN codes, that company needs to account the embedded emissions from the precursor as well. Like if we see cement, then for cement the raw material or the precursor is the clinker. So they need to report the emissions of clinker as well. So I think there is a great and very urgent need that we should, give this awareness to our reporting companies within Pakistan, that what are the actually requirements of this regulation, what is the methodology, and what they are actually requiring. So for
Thank
now,
you.
CBAM, the entities are required to report all of their emissions on the EU provided communication template. And the second document which they require to document is the monitoring plan. So within the monitoring plan, they have to provide all of the information, like what are they producing, what is actually the production route, what are the emission factor, and which default values which they are currently using. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Moving on to Abdullah Saab, similar sort of, if you could shed some light on how CBAM is likely to impact the Pakistan export sector. So, sir, 2 minutes, please, before I revert to specific questions. Thank you.
Okay, sir. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. So actually, in the light of European Union Green Deal, there are certain delegated legislations like ESPR and certain sub-delegated legislations that go. You can say becoming into force in 2027, 2028, and after that 2020, 2029 and 2034, like CBAM. So actually, the problems which our SMEs and the basic supply chains will face is actually the loss of end-to-end visibility over their supply chains. Like you can say, there are multi-tier suppliers. As far as the cotton or the textile mills are concerned, they are getting cottons from the, you can say, the cotton breeders. They have no certain mechanisms for collecting the data, how much water they are actually using. So this is a gap between these multi-tier supply chains. So the DPP and the CBAM regulations are actually here to fill that void. Secondly, the other issue of the traceability is the actually the you can say traceability and transparency is actually the greenwashing. Mostly the compliance here in Pakistan is mostly, you can say, is based on friendly audits and many of our documents, PDFs and papers related. So I think DPPs and CBAM will actually implement a great deal of transparency and traceability through a digital product passport, which will be implemented via the delegated legislation in battery sector in 2027 and in textile sectors in 2028, and for some tier 2 suppliers and to tier 3 suppliers till the 2034, the final dates. So after that, the challenges which the Pakistan's SMEs and Pakistan's new industries will face is actually they have no knowledge, like you can say the whole process, the whole infrastructure of DPP is based on two things. The first is the IT infrastructure, and the second is the data gathering. So here the IT infrastructure for most of the SMEs, as far as my experience is, they lack the build up teams related to the ITs within the industries. So first of all, for their preparation, they need to do the gap analysis in their IT departments, and as well as their production departments, their traceability departments. They should make, you can say, spreadsheets related to the supply chains, which products they are getting from the supply chain, for which the data is not visible, data is not traceable. So they should, you can say, take them on board for the collection of the better data. Then they should supply and engage all the suppliers related to that. Then they should generate and test and display the QR codes, RFIDs, and NFCs, which will be totally enabled by the in-house IT departments. So uh, the key to implementation, prior to, we can say, okay, there are much years left for this, we can do at the end, but this is not what which we can say can be able to do at the just overnight. For this we have to work prior to the deadlines for 3 to 4 years, because it is actually a, you can say, a granular data reporting, not just like in the form of batches, in the form of, you can say, compliance audits. It is actually linked to your each and every product. So for this, preparation should be started now, through the gap analysis and spreadsheet making, and then engaging the supply chain.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Coming to you now, Sajil Saab, you come from a very different, varied background, and especially heading the green story. So I would put across the same question to you. How do you see CBAM, changing the landscape of, exports in Pakistan? So over to you, sir. 2 minutes, please.
Okay, so thank you so much. On CBAM, textiles are the core CBAM sector right now. Let's be honest about that. But the direction is very clear. Sector एक दिन ऐड हो सकता है, and even before that, buyers are already asking for facility level energy and emissions data anyway. So we're helping suppliers build their capability now, so they're not caught off guard later. So that's my 2 cents about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, opening the questions, I would come to Ms. Kamal, to you. So, in your experience and everything else that is going around, so what do you see as the key in terms of implementing GHG protocols across the industrial sector in Pakistan? So, what I mean, there is a lot of talk. I mean, like you mentioned previously about we are following the European guidelines and so on and so forth. I have personally seen a lot of businesses in Pakistan, where they are trying to implement either ESG standards in relation to IFRS or GRI, but specifically in terms of GHG protocols, what do you see as the key element that we should be working on to make sure that those protocols are followed?
Sir, thank you so much for this key question. I would like to add that even if we see the recent regulations or the developments within Pakistan related to the SCCP, where they have mandated that the organizations like the listed companies need to use the IFRS standard as a reporting framework for their ESG reporting, right? So within that framework, we see that in IFRS S2, which is specifically related to the climate threats and opportunities related reporting. So that framework is actually supporting GHG protocol, right? So GHG protocol is currently the widely used standard for the development of greenhouse gases emissions inventory. Also, if we want to see like the science-based target initiative, which is another platform where industries are publicly disclosing their near-term and long-term goals. So even that platform is supporting that industries or the companies need to report their emissions by following GHG accounting and reporting standard. But mainly there are two, there is only a major difference between if we see the reporting requirement GHG protocol at the corporate level, and 14064 part 1, if the entities are using GHG protocol for their accounting and reporting of their greenhouse gases, then GHG protocol is currently not mandating this, that they need to report their scope 3 emissions. But when we are reporting our emissions as per 14064 part 1, then this is something mandatory, that the entities or the reporting companies have to report emissions which lies even within their scope 3, or else they have to provide the significance analysis. So I think that I answered your question.
Thank you, madam. Yes, very clearly. So it is very important for us to follow those guidelines and make sure the implementation. Now that brings me to you, Sajil Saab, in terms of Green Story. You have a very niche, platform in terms of, the GHG emissions and PCF data. So in your opinion, how can Green Story ensure reliability and verification of data under GHG and PCF, especially related to Scope 3 emissions? So how do you see that working, in terms of your quantification?
So this is actually a question we get a lot, and honestly, it's a fair concern. Our basic principle is simple: use supplier-specific data wherever we can, verify the important inputs, write down assumptions clearly, and keep improving the data quality over time. We don't pretend that every scope 3 number is equally solid. That would be dishonest, frankly. The real risk in scope 3 is that the companies just rely on generic averages or spend based numbers, or they take whatever the supplier sends without checking it. So, what we do is step by step replace the assumptions with real supply data and keep a proper trial for every single value. I'll break it into four parts quickly. First, structured data collection. Suppliers put their data into our platform, and we try to link it into actual batch, PO, product, or facility, not just some random spreadsheets number floating around. Second, we validate it against evidence, utility bills, certificates, whatever supports that number. If there is a gap or something looks off, the system flags it. Third, and this is important, AI can catch anomalies, but the real checks come from our textile and LCA experts. Because sometimes supply data looks complete, सब कुछ fill किया हुआ है, but it's actually wrong. Wrong allocation, double counting, wrong emission factor use. आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा just by looking at it. So we have like human verification available as well. Fourth, we grade the data transparently. Primary data, supply declare, proxy, or default data, base data. So you're not just getting a number, you're getting to know how much you can actually trust that number. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajil Saab, for giving your view on it. Now, Abdullah Saab, coming to you, in terms of SMEs in Pakistan. Obviously, we are talking about always talking about the larger industry in Pakistan. But what do you think in relation to the SMEs? How can they prepare early for this upcoming DPP and CBAM related requirements? In your view, is there a checklist that they can follow? Is there a best practice that they can follow? Are there any forums that they can join? Are there any consultants available on ground who can help get the SMEs? I'm specifically talking about SMEs, not the industries. Get in terms of get ready for the upcoming changes.
Yes, thank you. Most of the SMEs have their products being, you can say, exported to the European Union, but they are not working with the, you can say, high-profile brands, so they are not reporting any sort of their compliances. So the main thing for them is the gap analysis, the thorough study of what they are doing and what they are not doing and what they need to do in the future. So in order to comply with the future delegated legislations and the DPP and CBAM and other compliance, you can say, reporting procedures, the main thing for them is the gap analysis and the team building. Actually, most of the SMEs have never their business model is solely depending upon what they are you can say getting from the supply chain in the form of the raw material, and then producing it from many manufacturing pathways or production pathways, and then sell, you can say, a little bit of the documentation related to the customs compliance, and then sending them to the on board. But for the future, they need to do what they are doing currently and what they need for the future. There is a complete checklist, which checklist. The checklist is that they should be accounting their emissions for each and every granular data for each and every product. At the first stage, doing it for the batch level product is also good, but ultimately they will be shifting to the granular data for each and every product. So they should first of all do for the batch the product carbon footprint, the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. But prior to that, they need to get the data from their supply chains. Mostly the suppliers in for the SMEs are the local based, which have not any, you can say, and prior knowledge related to the reporting requirements. So they may need to switch their suppliers. So the main key is actually getting the data from their supplier chains after the gap analysis, and then moving forward.
Thank you, Abdullah Saab. So basically, the key here, in obviously, in terms of, yes, getting prepared for the upcoming changes, but from what you are saying is that data is the key, in us to be able to move forward. Sajil Saab, I'll come to you before shortly, before I go to Madam Kamal. So, Sajil Saab, your platform, I mean, how does it align with ISO 14064 and GHG protocol, CBAM, and everything else? So, I would like you to take some 5 minutes and explain in detail, please, as to how it aligns, because we have participants, who are really keen to know as to what your platform is actually offering. So please take some time, shed some light on, the good parts of your platform, please.
Okay, thank you so much. These stories actually was made 10 years ago, and it was founded on the ground that we need to give the brands and suppliers the platform which is not heavy on their pockets. So, which means that for SMEs in Pakistan or globally, people can adopt it easily. So, we are the company which actually specialize in digital product passport, life cycle assessment, corporate carbon footprint, and now this one. Honestly, we built the whole platform keeping these standards in mind from day one, and this wasn't an afterthought. For ISO 14064 and GHG protocol, the platform handles your corporate inventory, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, with proper boundaries. Uh, Activity data, emission factors, evidence, trial, like everything, especially for scope 3, where most companies struggle because you need a defensible method for your supplier emissions, not just a guess you did once and forget about. So for ISO 1467, we have a complete product carbon footprint system reviewed by experts that follows the actual protocol steps, defining the product systems, the boundary, functional unit, allocation rules. And the good part is that this product level data feeds directly into your corporate ISO 14064 or GHG protocol reporting. So everything stays connected. You're not maintaining two separate sets of numbers that don't match. On CBAM, as I mentioned earlier, textile aren't a core CBAM sector right now. So, but the direction is very clear that maybe in 2028 or later on, it can be added, or even before that. So, but as I told you, that buyers are already asking for facility level energy and emission data anyway. So we're helping suppliers build that capability now, so they're not caught off guard later. And for example, there are few companies in Pakistan who also want to do SBTI reporting for few brands like Levi's. So Green Story always is at the top of the thing. So we have SBTI dashboard as well for those customers. And even in the future, if something like, for example, new regulation comes up, so Green Story has a capability to develop those systems, because the main thing is the data and we have the data. And for DPP, which is called like Digital Product Passport, we connect traceability, composition, supplier evidence, environmental data, and product IDs into one structured record, uh, and which actually follows the ESPR regulation. And Green Story is like the most reliable company which provides EU compliant digital product passport. And for our textile sector here, the message is simple. Start preparing this data now. Don't wait for the mandate to actually hit it. So the bottom line is we don't treat this as five different compliance headaches. It's one data backbone that supports all of it. Corporate reporting, PCF, CBAM style readiness, PPP, all at the same time. We prepare our suppliers and the brands at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajil Saab, for this. So I would also encourage you to share your company website link on the chat so that the other viewers, participants can have a look as to what you are offering in there. Now, coming back to you, Ms. Kamal. So here is a question that is just after having this discussion with all of you has sprung in my mind that I am an SME in Pakistan. I don't know anything about how this whole GHG reporting, the platforms, the PCF, everything. I don't know anything about it. I want to educate myself. So you are part of a very valued organization worldwide, SGS. So what would your suggestion to be to me as an individual that look, Swan, you don't know anything about any of this. Here is the starting point. These are the organizations that can help you, and so on and so forth. So over to you, madam. Again, like I said, you are part of a very valued organization worldwide. So I would give you 5 minutes in terms of shedding some light on it, because there are a lot of participants who are here that are eager to know as to what those steps can be. So over to you, madam. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for this important question. Basically, I also want to endorse the opinion of Mr. Abdullah and Sajil that this is something very much important that we have to be ready because since we all know that we don't have time. It's already, we are late. So as an individual, as a SME, I think we have to educate ourselves how to use these kind of, the standards or what I would call the guidance, basically related to the GHG emissions reporting. Because since Mr. Sajil has mentioned that, and we all know that currently within the CBAM portfolio, we have only 5 products, but it has been expected that by 2030, CBAM will be covering all of the sectors who are doing export to the EU. So keeping that thing in mind, if we are aiming to reach that international platform for our export and to gain that competitive edge, this is something important that we should learn or do do some kind of trainings, how to do these greenhouse gases calculation kind of things. And through your platform, I also want to highlight one more thing, that currently at SGS we also have a digitalized solution for GHG accounting and reporting. Recently SGS has acquired majority of the stacks in the SAMI, which is actually a digital platform used for the GHG calculation and reporting, and that platform is well aligned with the GHG protocol accounting and reporting requirements. So through the access of this digital platform, this is something easy for us, that we can calculate the data of our multiple facilities who are even scattered within different regions, because if we since we are talking about the challenges, so the main challenge that currently we now are facing when we are calculating emission is the localized emission factors, because even if we see within these standards, they are recommending that for scope 2 grid based calculation of emissions, we need to use the grid emission factor, because there is a difference in the energy mix when we are using the grid emission factor of Pakistan, and if some of the reporting company is using UNFCCC or even International Energy Agency or some other kind of databases for the calculation of emission. So
Thank you, madam.
yeah.
Thank you on that. Madam, again, grateful to you for shedding light on this. In terms of, the digitization of, what SGS is offering, if you could please mention the link to that, the URL, in the chat, so, people can benefit from it. And obviously, they can go and see what SGS has to offer in terms of Pakistan. With that, Madam Nadita, I would come to you briefly, for just a short question that I asked Madam Kamal as well. That I am an SME. I'm brand new to this whole GHG and all these reporting platforms and so on and so forth kind of business. So what would your suggestion to me would be as an SME owner as to where I can go? What could be the starting point? So just 2 minutes, if you could shed some light on it in relation to what could be the starting point, please.
I would say, as a standardizer, the first starting point would be to start looking at the international standards. The ISO TC 207 has a lot of resources already available, and making contact with your ISO member in your country, in Pakistan, it would be extremely critical. So I'd say the first step is that sensitization and awareness. Also, I would have posted in the chat the link to our ISO TC 207 website. From time to time, there are awareness building sessions, so part of the capacity building initiative. So getting aware of the requirements and also looking at, what are the basic steps. And I agree with one of the panelists before. We have to look at the gap analysis, but maybe the SMEs would not have that technical knowledge. So based on the resources available, I would say start looking at the free resources available, participate in any ISO sessions. What we would normally do is when we launch new standards, we would have outreach and awareness sessions. So we would have done something on ISO 14001 when the new revised version came out in April. So I think that is the key starting point, becoming aware of the requirements, the potential implications, and then looking at the scalability factor that I mentioned before. Starting small, looking at the free data collection, what information exists already, and build up based on the requirements. for the
Thank you very
expert
much on
panels.
that, madam. So thank you very much to all the panelists. Madam Nandita, for you, Sajil Saab, to you, Madam Kamal, Abdullah Saab, and so on. So as we are moving towards the close of the webinar, we have some questions in the chat from the participants. I will read them out to you, and then whoever would have the answer, then we'll go through that. So we have a question from Sayyid Nadeem Abbas Saab. Basically, they are saying that the acronyms that you've used, he's suggesting that please use the full forms as we during the course of the webinar, so the other participants can educate themselves from it. Then we have Kamran Hanif Saab, who's asking about considering both CBAM and DPP requirements, both demand product level carbon data is there. Currently, any platform that avoids double entry data, where one GHG PCF data set feeds both CBAM reporting and DPP data records. So that is the question from Kamran Hanif Saab. So Sajil Saab, would you like to take this question, please?
Yeah, thank you. I was about to say that I would like to take this. Yes, green story does actually avoid this because our system is AI enabled. So it is so smart that it can actually identify the double data entry and actually avoids any doubling of the data. And apart from that, it gives you hotspots of your supply chain that the way you need to improve by measuring it constantly and real time with the data available all around the world. So yeah, green story is one thing you should consider if that's one issue you are looking to resolve. And another thing is that if you use the platform, I'm just talking about the green story one. There are many tabs which are available. But if you click that tab, it will automatically take the data from your database, which you have input in the system, and it will give you different reports. So there is no chance of doubling of data, or and if there is any error, it will definitely point you out. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sajil Saab, Kamran Saab. I hope that clarifies the question there. The next one, I take it, is a comment rather than a question. The comment is from an unknown LinkedIn user. Says Carbon Fora has launched ESG reporting platform called ESG Launchpad, where they don't need a separate sustainability department. They just need to subscribe to the platform and give their data, and Carbon Fora will make their ESG report. So a suggestion from that is the situation. Next one is from another LinkedIn users. I think it's the same user. They're talking about the Carbon Fora on there. Then we have a final question from Waqar Ahmed Saab, who is asking which certifications courses are the best ones to understand ESG and standards for a beginner. So Asad Saab, would you like to take this question, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think first of all, in context of all the pillars of ESG, there are standards as Ms. Nadita has just mentioned that because we are all globally connected, so starting point should be the standards and your local regulations and bylaws. So at those crossroads, you need to see if your standards, local standards, sometimes also need revisions as well, because the international standards are a bit far ahead, or they keep changing as well with a certain passage of time. So my understanding is first of all, take your existing rules and regulations pertaining to the three pillars of ESG, and then try to link it up again with the standardization aspects. What ISO standards are there, because it's not only about because when we talk our since our today's theme has been evolving around platforms related to GHG and PCF, and we and the participants have discussed like which platforms they are using and which people can use and look into it. But I think like the basic tool everyone uses is the Excel sheet everywhere across the world, just to get know why how the basic models work at the back end. So that accounting thing and basic understanding is also very much important for the beginner to have. It's not because sometimes tools are there, but until and unless you don't know the back end of the process that is happening, you will not be able to analyze the things and properly interpret the things.
Thank you, Asad, for shedding light on it. Just to add to the mix, I've just been informed by our admin team that ESG Nexus is delivering a ESG specific training course on Scope 1, 2, 3 in Lahore, Pakistan next month on 28th of and 29th of July. And if there are any participants who would like to join from this session, they are welcome to do that, and they will be given a discount of 10% if they mention the name of this webinar. So they will be given that. So, Waqar Saab, obviously Asad Saab has shed light on it in terms of, what courses are there to attend. But I would add some more meat to it in relation to our own training program that we are delivering, almost every other month, in Karachi and Lahore, based on ESG. So next month's training program is based on Scope 1, 2, 3 specifically. It's a 2-day training course, and for those of you who are really interested, you'll find it very useful because in the previous sessions we would do a site visit, but in this session we have planned to basically do a lot of interactive exercises in-house. So it'll be a good session. So anyways, thank you very much for that. That was the last session. Now coming back to the close of this webinar. Firstly, I would like to apologize once again for the delay in the start of this webinar because of some IT glitches and so on and so forth. Some of you have also commented about the echo and the sound and the delay in the video. Our IT team has checked in the background. The issue is not at our end. It's to do with the service provider, but they are still looking into it. So apologies for that. On that, I would hand over the floor to Asad Saab to provide his closing remarks. Specifically, I know Asad Saab personally that he's very keen on these platforms in terms of GHG and PCF reporting. He's excited that although the timeline is very short, but he's excited that this is hitting Pakistan. So I'll hand over the floor for the closing remarks to Asad Saab. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. With such a panel of eminent experts and practitioners, I must say, who have been guiding and facilitating the industries and other enterprises as in context of the subject which we have discussed today in detail. Again, 1 hour I think is not sufficient to grasp all the aspects of the platforms which are pertaining to like enterprise level GHG reporting, or you can say like the product PCF calculations. Somehow they are one way or the other interlinked with many upcoming regulations which are coming or evolving every day in context of the trade, in context of your local bylaws, and then local penalization or international carbon taxation. So all the things are happening as we are speaking now, and it is already applied on different sectors. So what I can say is like it's never too late. Still, developing countries have time, and we can leapfrog in many of these aspects. We do have the validation verification bodies in Pakistan, in other countries. They also have the practitioners presence. And we have because the global standards are there, so there's expertise, be it be from Pakistan or any other developing countries, because our sessions they are not limited to only Pakistani context. We try to cover the things which are globally, locally, regionally interconnected as well. And the tools which we have just discussed, one of the tools from Green Story, so they are already practicing in various export oriented textile industry and in other sectors as well. So we'll be soon having some further interaction and working relation with certain platforms as well. And then definitely AI is the catchy word in all these things, but it is not going to replace or exchange the the people which you have listened to today. So, and specifically, as you know, like one when the calculators came, the mathematicians were worried that their jobs are finished now, but it never happened. So similar is the case with AI. AI tools are there, but at the end of the day, it's the man behind the gun. So it's the people, experts, get the knowledge, which platform serves your purpose, and that is something like ESG Nexus platform is doing that thing, connecting and bringing everything in front of you, so you can pick and choose the way where you feel convenience. And definitely I would also like to thank you, Nadita Ramachala, joining us too early or midnight from your time, I guess, from where you're located in Canada at the moment. So it shows your interest, and we'll be inviting you soon to our other upcoming programs. And it was heartening to know from you that earlier your predecessor Zakia, in one of our sessions, she gave the news about GHG protocol and ESG next ISO integration. So, and it's good from to hear from you that it is quite advanced now, and the practitioners and practical people like us and other companies which are relying on your standards, they can remove the ambiguity from the market, from their stakeholders, and can really offer their services, up-to-date services to the clients. And we look forward to have close working relation with the TC207, and all our members would be there to provide you the inputs whenever required. So I just stop over here with the thanking note to everyone on behalf of ESG Nexus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asad Saab, for your comments and knowledge that you've shared with us. On that note, we have come to the close of this webinar. I would thank all the participants and the panelists for attending this. Ms. Nadita, as Asad Saab said, that it is wee hours for you, late night, early morning. So thank you for taking time out for us. Sajil Saab, thank you for sharing the strengths of and the story behind Green Story. Madam Kamal, thank you very much for your inputs, and please do share the URL for this platform that you were talking about. Same with you, Sajil Saab. Abdullah Saab, thank you very much for your knowledge and expertise. And on that note, I will end this here, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you, all the participants and panelists. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.